Deputies tell me there were 6 terrifying moments where Javon Collazo was on that bus. Now he's been arrested and he faces 19 charges of kidnapping, carjacking, and armed robbery, plus various other charges. That decision was announced about an hour ago in a courtroom in this building behind me. It only took about 2 hours of deliberation for the jury to come back with that guilty verdict. The teen was coming around this corner on Windsor Lake Boulevard, and if you look down here, you can see the tire marks where her car went off the road. If you keep following me this way, you will see the path that her car took before she crashed into these trees. Around 5 o'clock, several arrests were made, and if you look behind me, you can see about 100 to 200 people. Bernard Taylor was driving down Bowen Street when he lost control of his car. His car ended up in this pond. Forget about walking the grounds or going on a ride. This year, you'll have to stay in your car at all times. That includes the more than 23,000 students enrolled in the Richland One School District. According to the Department of Social Services, around 467,000 students in South Carolina qualify. Samantha, just hours ago in an emotional news conference, the York County Sheriff released new information about the 5 victims and the suspect, along with 2 911 calls.
I think there's been a bad shooting, maybe 4 people.
My 2 technicians are there. One just called me. He can't talk. He's screaming, I've been shot, I've been shot. And I asked him where the other one is. He said he's laying there and he's unresponsive, and he was shot also.
8 minutes after these calls for help, deputies arrived at the home of Dr. Robert Leslie.
The first 2 victims, obviously, that we encountered were the 2 air conditioning techs who were outside the home in the driveway at their work vans.
Technician James Lewis died. Family members tell us the other tech is Robert Shook, in critical condition in the hospital. Inside the home, in a back room, they found Dr. Robert Leslie, his wife Barbara, and 2 of their grandchildren, 9-year-old Ada and 5-year-old Noah Leslie. Deputies say the shooter forced entry and used a .45 and a 9mm.
Dr. Leslie was a pillar in this community with what he was able to give back to this community.
The family gave the sheriff this statement.
We are truly in the midst of the unimaginable. The losses we are suffering cannot be uttered at this time. Our hearts are bent towards forgiveness and peace, toward love and connectedness, toward celebration and unity. We honor all of those involved in this story with prayers and compassion.
Deputies say the shooter was former NFL player Philip Adams, who lived with his parents on the same street as the Leslie family and shot himself in his family's home. Neighbors are stunned.
Very caring people will give the shirt off the back to anybody. That's why it's so hard to grasp. It's a heavy heart with all the neighbors around here, you know, because you do not see this at all in this community.
The Leslie family says anyone wanting to honor their family can make donations to their local free pantry or make a donation to Camp Joy in Greenville. As the community grieves, the deputies are continuing to investigate why this tragic shooting happened. Live in Rock Hill, Brittany Breeding, Watch Fox News, Local First. It's a huge problem all over the Midlands. Take a look. This zip code is right outside our studio, 29201. We found more than 140 registered sex offenders living in this area. Now, these are convicted offenders people authorities know about. But many others are lurking in the towns and cities where you live. Tonight, we go behind the scenes where investigators are stalking the stalkers. All of these people face or have been convicted of sexual criminal charges after being caught in local law enforcement stings. So, how do they do it?
That training in itself taught me a vast amount for how to chat with these predators.
Tips come from companies like Google, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and more.
Each year it goes about 1,000 tips in the last couple of years. So it's gone 3,000 to 4,000. Now we're on pace for about 5,000 cyber tips.
Kevin Atkins with the Attorney General's Office and Carol Tart with the Kershaw County Sheriff's Office tell me the pandemic has had an impact.
I'd say the numbers have doubled.
Tips aren't the only way they find these suspects. There are other ways, like a complicated undercover operation.
We've done a little bit of that here in Kershaw County as well. It's one of those things where it's a difficult task to do, but it's one of those things that we have to do.
Carol Tart is a trained undercover chatter.
So I do have undercover profiles out there. Obviously, I wouldn't go into what those are. And people reach out to me all the time.
Whether through a tip or undercover work, after a potential crime is found, the investigation ramps up.
We look into that person really deeply, into their profiles, anything of that nature.
Parents may be surprised at the control a predator can have over your child, even though they've never met.
Call them self-production cases where the juveniles themselves are taking pictures or filming themselves, making recordings of themselves in maybe a nude manner.
But how do the predators know which child to target?
They know how to look for that wounded animal that needs some attention.
With online learning, the popularity of social media, and the easy access of the internet, experts say children are even more vulnerable.
You'll lock your door at your house at night and you'll make sure your windows are shut, but you leave your internet open. And so that's why they're taking advantage of the internet to get to your children.
So how can you protect them?
Yes, I understand that privacy is what you want for somebody to have, but these are still children.
They say just keeping an eye on your child isn't enough.
So education is key. Even there's several educational games, even on the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, that teach them the good touch, bad touch.
Preventing these crimes starts at home.
I can't arrest my way out of the problem. We can keep our arrest rate goes higher and higher each year just because the number of cases are coming in. But the education component is very important.
And check the apps on your children's phones. Even if an app promises to delete a picture or video after it's sent, there are still ways criminals can save or access them. And earlier we showed you sexual predators around WatchFox. This website behind me will let you look up your own zip code so you can find out just how many threats are nearby. The Attorney General's office website also lets you see pictures of these predators. Reporting in Columbia, Brittany Breeding, WatchFox News, Local First.